Excuse me. Sorry, dude.
Hey, Evan, can you maybe just like advance the slide? Actually,
I'll be up here. I can do it. But
okay. And we also have a
what are the? I don't mind doing it. I'm gonna be up here.
Oh,
anyway.
gosh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did I just do it on its own?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a wireless keyboard. That's fine.
Okay.
like nothing like
You're good?
printing off.
Oh, you
just-
want? I can do
we're
it.
good.
Doesn't
We're
matter.
good. We're good.
Okay.
And hey, Black.
Where'd you go? Okay.
This is. Man, this is gonna be fun.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good.
And he's eating.
And his shoes are wet.
Let's start right there.
I just like mess with stuff.
Hey. Hey, come on. So anyone right here, you can't swear. What? Don't swear. Seriously. I don't want to get our YouTube channel shut down.
You guys, they packed it over here too. If y'all want to come on in, there's a table over here. Front center. You gotta get to it though, so grab a seat. Let's do this. Yeah, I believe in you.
Come on. Come on.
I believe in you.
Hear it.
Rodeo action.
And we got a lot of seats down here.
All right, welcome. We are so glad to have you here. We've been doing this for several years, but O'Connor and I both feel like this is one of the coolest days that we have over the course of our teaching year. So thank you for being a part of it. We're here for a couple reasons. One is to honor this guy right here, Tom Baldini. So Tom Baldini, when he died too young, was the mayor of Marquette, but he was a lifelong civil servant and committed to improving the lives of people, and not just doing it for a job, but or not just doing it for political gains, but to do it for the right reasons. And he really, would be the guy that would stop and chat you up at Donkers when you're having breakfast with your family. He was that kind of civil servant. He worked at all levels of government. So Bill Clinton named him to be on the committee for the Great Lakes. So something that is so treasured for us. James Blanchard, former Governor James Blanchard, nicknamed him the governor of the UP because he had such influence. And then he gently and kind of behind the scenes made a real impact. So we're here to honor Tom and to continue that spirit of civic service and that whole idea of agree or disagree. So who's in the house? Let's see who's in the house. We've got some esteemed judges. And first up, we've got Heather Marshall. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then if you could choose an issue to get up on your soapbox, what would it be?
Okay, I am currently serving as the HR specialist for math. Shortly will be student teaching. My passion lies in English and history specifically. And thank you. I think that my soapbox platform would be nationalized healthcare.
Okay, I'm going out of order, but Miss Billy, librarian extraordinaire, tell us about yourself. Two words, really?
I can't do that. I think I would pick females and ADHD.
Okay. Okay, our esteemed Officer Durand.
Instead of Officer Durand, not Durand.
Durand.
Oh.
I said Durand. I said Durand. She typed it. I did.
Take him in.
Out of respect.
I knew it was a D.
Yeah, I'm your friendly school liaison officer. I work at the Marquette Police Department, obviously. But I think my soapbox would be bullying.
Our wonderful counselor, Emily Gregorich.
So I'm obviously a counselor here at the high school.
in my soapbox, and I talk about it all the time, and it drives people crazy, but the lack of mental health services for our youth.
Oh.
And we are so fortunate to have a city commissioner in our presence.
Two?
We have two. One is judging and one is helping. So, Jessica Hamel, please.
I'm a city commissioner, and as of very recently, I'm the executive director of the Children's Museum here in Marquette, which is super fun. If I got to stand on my soapbox, it would probably be about affordable housing, which is a huge issue.
Hey, you guys, so we have introduced you to the judges, but we need to like talk about who's in the house, like who's here. So for those of you who did a soapbox speech in your class, stand up. Stand up, get in there, get in there, yeah. Okay, thank you. For those of you, this might be a small one, but those of you who are registered to vote, I don't know if we're old enough in here. Is anybody old enough in here to do that? All right, we are here. Very good. And then one more. Okay, here we go. You're not old enough, but you are super excited about getting registered to vote and actually getting out there and doing that vote thing. Get up. Who wants to do it? All right. Very cool. So, hey, you guys, that whole element of, saying your truth, voting, getting out there and, making your ideas, thoughts, beliefs known is huge. And that's kind of what we're going to hear today, if you will. People up here speaking their truth. So, hey, really quickly, I want to just kind of go through and make sure we have our norms. You guys have, those of us who have already done soapbox, we've got this, but we need to make sure that we're really good with this because you all know public discourse can be really ugly right now, right? And that's not what we're about here, okay? We're all about listening, okay? And we're not listening to respond, y'all. We're just listening, okay? So with that, be present, be here, okay? When they're up there speaking, y'all know how hard it is to get up here in front of people and speak, especially these elements of speaking like some really deep stuff. Just be present, listen to them, be respectful. Agree to disagree. Y'all don't have to agree with what they're saying, but you do need to just be listening, okay? Again, disagree with the idea, not the person. You got that? And then, of course, you guys are going to be respectful and positive. We are not going to solve the problems of the world, but this is step one, right? This is step one. Getting those ideas out there. And then we got to practice. Okay, our kids know this already. For those of you who haven't been here, are you ready? When the speakers come up, first of all, what are we going to do when they come up? Show me. When they are saying something that you're like, ooh, really good, like just something that's hitting you, what are you doing? Yeah. If they get to a spot where they're kind of like, that, not that it's been happening. But if you're like, what are you going to do? You got this, right? Beautiful. Thank you. We're supporting. And then when they're finished, one more time. Got it. Okay. So, you're next.
To our finalists, congratulations. If you think you're here to win an award, that's like beyond the point. But our goal here is to celebrate student voice and to recognize all of the fantastic things that you are doing and that you believe in your heart. So this is a celebration of all of you, and we're just so thankful that you're here, and we get to do this every single year. So we love this day. And let's welcome to the stage, first up, Mr. Cole Johnson.
I get comfortable. Okay. There has never been a fair election in the United States. Through wealth, misrepresentation, exploitation, and unchecked power with every election, there is always an embedded bias, and it isn't for the people. It is for the individuals on top, because the American system is designed to benefit the wealthy or the modern nobles that control and influence the land. America is a system built by the powerful to exploit the weak. Whether it was through slaves in the beginning, then exploited laborers in the Gilded Age, and now the modern version of slavery, the prison system, which is explicitly allowed in the 13th Amendment. Now you can work 40 hours a week, pay your taxes, do your part, and not even afford housing, while billionaires exploit the capitalist system by pooling their money in investments to dodge taxes and exploit their compatriots who they claim they stand by, as they make 324 times the wage of their workers. All the while, it is found that the opinions of the people, the lower and middle class, in the United States are underrepresented by the figures that they elect. That is not our founding principles. We set up this country to avoid this type of power imbalance after the people who started it felt tyranny and misrepresentation by the higher power of the English. Their reaction is the reaction that comes from all people who face discrimination and exploitation, the reaction that all of us humans share. The founding fathers, however, happened to be powerful people who owned companies and slaves and were able to fight fire with fire. When founding this country, we were very close to representing these oppressed angers and fears and allowing them to never happen again. The problem was that the founding fathers did not want to be hypocrites. They were the exploiters. They were the wealthy. They were the people with power. The group that didn't have a voice were the farmers, butchers, and other underrepresented people the founding fathers claimed they fought for. They really fought for their own land and their own well-being. We can see a modern version of this today when billionaires try to block bills that increase taxes on them or try to push huge bills through Congress that benefit their companies before their workers. It's the same power struggle we saw in 1776. The people on top shouldn't be obliged to share their power. The people on the bottom should demand it and grant it upon themselves because they are the majority. This country was founded on the principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for the people. Democracy, essentially. However, democracy cannot exist under a system such as ours. And the defining document of the American system should not be voted on by a pair of oligarchs in a convention. One vote should equal one vote. But this is impossible with the influence of power and wealth in our elections because of the ultimate goal of the capitalist system. In James Madison's Federalist 10, he warns of factions and how they can clash. However, I fail to see the point of calling these interest groups enemies when they all have one goal: profit in the American dream. But what is the cost of this dream? 2/3 of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. People have more power than companies, and companies are starting to compete with the government. The government doesn't control the world around us, the economy does. The lower and middle classes want to benefit the economy and can turn towards conservative politics because of this, because they think that CEOs control the inputs and outputs of our mode of production. They fail to realize that they are the economy. A CEO cannot sit back and let his money work for him with his investments if there is no one to work for his company and produce labor. In turn, these conservative voters drive the economy into the interests of billionaires and not themselves in order to appease authority. The billionaires then use their bought-out power to sway elections to their benefit, which can also shift the data on what is broadcasted on what the American people want. I can tell you what Americans want. Freedom, a voice, stability, and safety. Human needs that the powerful hog for themselves. I'm not saying that internal government institutions change and skew data and voting numbers. I'm not saying that you shouldn't vote because it isn't fair. What I am saying is that the power imbalance in the United States sways final results in elections and shifts overall narratives on certain topics. It's been found, such as a Cambridge study, that suggests that the economic elite have a large independent influence on policy in Congress, while mass-based interest groups and individual voters have little to none. This could help explain why only 15% of Americans approve of Congress, because their voices are drowned out by the elite. That's why I'm saying to you all that when you vote, vote for the Americans that walk beside you, the ones that support you, the ones that keep society flowing. If we want democracy, we need to eliminate the class division in America to further represent the majority. If we want democracy, we need to eliminate the war between the two parties in our country and vote for the individuals that will actually work for your well-being and the benefit of the people, not the powerful. If we want democracy, we need to expand our voting practices to make it easy to vote, with no long lines or questionable complications. If we want democracy, we need to set these new voting practices in stone, so they can't be tampered with by malicious powers. If we want democracy, we need to unite and run this country for the people. Give the power to the people.
All right. Are you ready? I hope so.
Ella no está.
Morgan. We're gonna. Oh, my bad. Now I don't have to. Okay, here we go.
Today, I'm here to talk to you about the injustice of the justice system, more specifically the prison and jail systems. As I'm sure you all know, that there is an overpopulation problem, and that also reaches to prisons. 118 countries exceed the maximum amount allowed in prisons, and this leads to inhumane living conditions. Many people in prison have too many people in a cell, and they aren't given the right health conditions that they need. The food that they are given isn't healthy for them. Their mental health isn't being treated. 43% of people in prisons are mentally ill. Now, something that we could do to help change the amount of people that are in prisons is that we could maybe have special arrangements for them. So for children or people with minor cases, we could have people go to their house or where they live and help them get better there. Or with mothers with small children, we could have them live at their house or just have days to another thing is that they have 24-hour lights there, which means that they are not sleeping well. And not sleeping, I know, as I'm sure that you all know, sleeping is a very important thing to have and can lead to depression or other mental health issues. And they're in solitary confinement, a lot of them, and only 15 days stuck in solitary confinement can lead to permanent mental damage. I think that we need to help them instead of humiliate them. I know that guards usually aren't very kind to them. I mean, I know that they weren't kind, that the prisoners weren't kind to others, but we should always be kind and always try and help others. Otherwise, we are no better than they are. Now, this also leads me to talk about the Swedes prison system. And their motto or quote from Niels Erdberg is, "Our role is not to punish. The punishment is a prison sentence. They have been deprived of their freedom. The punishment is that they are with us." And there they have prison workers and guards that are there as social workers as well. They're helping to help their mental health and correct the wrong behaviors that they're displaying. They also have open prisons that are like camp or like college dorms. They have their own little space, their own room, and they cook for themselves. They clean their house, their like little mini room, and they take care of themselves. But they are still confined
and a jail, so they are not able to harm themselves or others. They also have the smallest reoffenders in Europe. Only 16% go back to prison, whereas in the US, 2/3 go back. Our system is not meant, it's not set up for people to succeed in life. It is not meant for people who are trying to get out. It is meant to bring you back because they are not helping you there. If maybe we could have psychiatrists or therapists there to help them deal with their difficult emotions that are causing them to do these horrible actions, then maybe they would leave and leave and have a better life than one in confinement. Another thing that is really inhumane and not good about the prison systems is how we treat women on their periods. Pads and other menstrual products are not given in many, and for the few that are, they are not enough. So this results in women having to use unhealthy and they will rip up bed sheets or other fabric to help stop and make sure that they aren't bleeding everywhere. And then when they are begging and asking for their products that are meant for their health, their stability, they are humiliated and laughed at. And they will cancel their meetings with loved ones or with the people that are trying to get them out, which isn't helping them either. We need to treat the people better than they are being treated today. Even though they have done bad deeds, we all know that we make mistakes and that we need to be helping those that are in a tough situation. We are still humans with human rights, and something needs to change.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. Ready? Georgia. Come down.
Growing up, I could never focus in school. I could never pay attention, and not for lack of trying. I was told to just focus harder and to just pay attention. I got yelled at for braiding my hair and biting my nails. I struggled silently. It wasn't until my freshman year of high school I got diagnosed with ADHD. Even then, it took the school weeks of me trying to convince them I was worthy of accommodations. I had to get diagnosed with anxiety, as well as a learning disability. And then when that finally happened, the school took another 3 weeks, and then they finally listened. This is much more common than you think. Girls with ADHD appear much less symptomatic than boys, and for this reason, they're assumed to be less critical. They internalize their problems, and often they suffer silently, whereas boys exhibit their ADHD more externally. With that, it is almost impossible for girls to get diagnosed. And when they do, schools take it a lot less seriously because they're not a distraction to others. I had even brought this topic up with a male teacher I had in the past, and he laughed in my face. Girls with ADHD are taken lightly as people who don't see ADHD in general as something difficult or harmful. They see it as difficulty to focus. And as a society, we choose to ignore that statistics show that girls with ADHD have higher depression rates, higher suicide rates, and are even at a higher self-harm risk than their neurotypical peers. A recent study by Understood.org shows that the most ignored symptoms of girls with ADHD are depression, anxiety, and self-harm. It is difficult for people like authority figures or parents or teachers to see that finishing a homework assignment or a long movie or a short book can be physically and mentally draining. Female students with ADHD are completely ignored. They are told to just focus. They're told they're lazy. They're told they're unmotivated. Simply put, girls with ADHD are not taken seriously. Understood.org supports the idea that girls with ADHD go unmedicated when needed when they go undiagnosed, as well as are ignored by parents and teachers and guardians and any type of authority figure. This dismissal is teaching girls at a young age that their emotions are invalid and too dramatic. So what can you as a teacher or a student or a parent do to help? Teachers, listen to your students' accommodations. We understand that you have many students, but not all of them have accommodations. Childmind.org says that rewarding students with a good job or a nice work can help inspire them to work harder. Students, if you notice a friend or one of your students is working hard and struggling, make sure they know that they're not alone. You have the authority to make change. You have the authority to help. So do what you can and choose not to ignore the harmfulness of this. Thank you.
Oh gosh, Morgan, come on down. Here we go.
I'm Morgan Almond, and I'm here to talk about exam exceptions. Not long ago, I ended up fracturing my leg, and I think many of you can notice that. My surgeon told me exactly not to go to school the following week, and I ended up missing 35 hours of school. I lost my exam exemption for something I couldn't control, that I didn't have power over. I know many other students in our grade who are in the same boat I am. Something simple that they couldn't control, whether it was a medical issue or even like a family trip. They ended up losing something that they could have enjoyed time for. And yes, I said, I'm not speaking for myself when I say this. And this has caused me major anxiety, and I know it's not just me. It's not like I did it on purpose, yet I'm still getting punished with another 2-hour-long exam that I didn't have to take in church. According to studentassembly.org, the average student misses about 18 days a year, which on average, approximately there are 180 days in a school year. A student misses about 10% of school on average. Between appointments and out-of-school activities and sicknesses, it's almost impossible for a lot of students to be able to make it to school and to keep their exam exemption. Today's honestly really start to add up fast, and I know this isn't just for me. According to MSHS, we're only supposed to miss 14 hours of school a semester. That's only 2 days in 90 days of a year. It's almost impossible, and it's not something that we can always control either. Also, another reason exam exemptions should be modified is by tardies. First hour tardies should be allowed. Not all of us can control the weather or what Mother Nature has to say for us, or construction. Something happens and we get to school later. We'll be walking in the doors as the bell rings, and there's nothing we can do about it. By the time we end up getting to our lockers, unpacking our things, and walking in class in time, we're already too late. Not everybody can control that on a daily basis. It's difficult to make it on time. Not only does it add stress about keeping our exam exemptions 24/7, I know many students who have skipped going to family events just to be able to keep their exam exemption for the year. It's not fair to us. Exam exemptions are also part of not being able to have our exam exemptions is also causing mental health issues. School is struggling enough for high school students. It's stressful and it's irritating. We have all had our bad days. If our school gives us exemptions, they should at least be achievable. Thank you.
All right, cool, you guys. You guys are doing great. How we doing?
Women have fought for years to gain a voice and have power over their own lives. I am here today to discuss the Supreme Court and its wrongful decision to overturn Roe v. Wade in June of 2022. Roe v. Wade was passed on January 22nd, 1973, and was created to protect women's bodily rights. We have been fighting for centuries, and we should have the power to make decisions for ourselves. That power was taken away this summer. I am a girl, a teenage girl, and you're telling me that I don't have power over my own body, but old men do? Furthermore, some of those men have been accused of sexual harassment and assault on multiple different occasions. Within our national anthem, it states, "Land of the free, home of the brave," but for women, I'm not seeing much freedom. According to the World Health Organization, evidence shows that restricting access to abortion does not reduce the number of abortions. However, it does affect whether the abortions that women and girls attain are safe and dignified. The proportion of unsafe abortions is significantly higher in countries with highly restrictive abortion laws than in countries with less restrictive laws. What does this mean for our teens and women who can't afford to leave the state or even the country to find a healthy way of ending their pregnancy? Women don't just seek abortions simply because they don't want children. A lot of women seek abortions because going through with the pregnancy would be unhealthy and unsafe to both the mother and the child. What does this mean for the health of the child after the unstable pregnancy? Results of the Turnaway study performed by Dr. Diana Green Foster states that after being denied an abortion, household poverty increased and lasted 4 or more years, resulting in an inability to cover basic expenses, including food, housing, and transportation. A denied abortion was associated with a lowered credit score, increased debt, and an increase in negative public records, including evictions and bankruptcies. Now, I'm not just talking about the physical health of the child, but what about the emotional and mental well-being? Some people may say that going through with an abortion can be dangerous and cause harm to the potential mother. But that is untrue. According to Dennis Thompson of WebMD, legal abortions, for every 100,000 legal abortions, 0.7% of those potential mothers will die. If you compare that to tonsillectomies with a 5 for every 100,000, that's very low. Not only do abortions have the lowest mortality rate, but you're telling me I'm more likely to die from getting my tonsils out than terminating a pregnancy? That's crazy. Another excerpt from the Turnaway study states, abortion bans are a slippery slope to contraceptive restrictions. An example of this, some already view Plan B, the morning after pill, as an abortifacient and are thinking of including it in abortion bans. If contraceptives are banned, restricted, or skyrocket in price, the number of unsafe abortions will increase. Birth contraceptives aren't taken simply to avoid getting pregnant. A lot of women, especially young girls, use birth contraceptives to control their acne, regulate their period, and control their hormone levels. If access to birth control is restricted, women will be at a greater risk for STIs, HIV, and early school dropout. Women's rights are human rights. We should have the power to make decisions for ourselves based on our own bodies, and it shouldn't be anybody's business, especially the government's, what we decide to do. The Supreme Court overruling Roe versus Wade took away that power and that privacy. We are humans too. We shouldn't be scrutinized or diminished for pursuing our rights. The Supreme Court made a wrongful decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, and we as women will do everything to overturn their overturn. Thank you.
Okay. Judges, how are we doing up there?
You guys are great.
This is a hard job. Yeah. All right, here we go. Oh, really, here we go. Yep, there it is. Miss Ruth, come on down.
Did you know, on average, 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the US? It took me one Google search to find countless sources for help for the victims of the abuse, but over 45 minutes of searching to find help for the abusers. Domestic abuse is a major problem in the US, but there's a deeper issue that's going on. We need help for the abusers to be more accessible. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence and the law offices of Mulligan County, 1 in 4 men and 1 in 3 women are physically abused by an intimate partner. 80% of study participants end up with adult children in the same situations, and guns increase the risk of homicide by 500% in these domestic violence situations. My dad, he wasn't a bad person. He was loving and reached out every day to the people he loved, but he went through some trouble. Abuse is generational, whether it's the action or innate. As far as I know, his father struggled too. Physical and emotional abuse was normal in their world. So rather than recognizing the issue and getting help if he needed, my dad turned to alcohol, and when his world would turn dark, he would drink, hit, push, or punch. The lack of help ruined his relationships and is directly related to the reason why we were never close, he will not ever have a chance to get help, and why he isn't still with us today. After finding several different resources, after searching with different wording for different resources, I did find a few such as Violence Free Colorado, mentalhealth.net, and Center for Prevention of Abuse. But there's a few issues here. First of all, it's difficult enough for the abusers to admit that they need help. Many won't put in the effort that I did to find those resources. Second of all, they're not local. If you want help, you're not going to want to go to a different state or a few hours away to get help where they're not with your loved ones. Abusers are humans too. It doesn't mean we need to justify their actions, but we do need to have better systems in place. Abuse continues when victims leave, because if the victims just get help, then it's not like being for sure that the abuser will get help. Both people in the situations need help, and we need to create systems so that more family stories don't end the same way my father's did.
Thank you for sharing. Second time I've tried on that one. Thanks for that. Thank you very much. All right. Kate Compton.
In June of 1939, hundreds of Jewish refugees on the St. Louis ship sought asylum from the Holocaust in America. The U.S. turned them away, sentencing them to certain death upon their return to Germany. There is no ship in the harbor, but people's lives still hang in the balance. The U.S. does not take nearly enough forcibly displaced people as other countries. For example, Germany, which is 28 times smaller than the U.S., took 2.2 million refugees in the same year that the U.S. took 25,000. Many say that the U.S. can't handle a bigger population, that there aren't enough jobs, or that immigrants are a burden because of their usage of social services. In my research, I have found that the benefits much outnumber the costs. Regarding the economy, an influx in immigrants causes an increase in many goods, thus increasing job opportunities, wages, and overall stimulating the economy. In addition, foreign-born entrepreneurs currently account for about 25% of new hires in the U.S., showing that immigrants bring valuable innovative spirit. Dually, immigrants and forcibly displaced individuals benefit by being able to earn enough money to support them and their families, and in some cases escaping desperate situations occurring in their countries. As Martin Luther King Jr. said in his letter from Birmingham Jail, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I would ask you, is it just to turn away an El Salvadorian family seeking refuge from a corrupt leader and extreme gang violence? We need to reform our immigration system. To start, decrease visa applications significantly. Simplify visa application process. Offer incentives for businesses which petition for H-1B visas. Grant amnesty to illegal immigrants who are in good standing. Create free English classes for all immigrants. Offer more temporary work visas and keep families together. Let me leave you with a few words from The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus, a poem mounted on the Statue of Liberty. A mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. With silent lips she pleads, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe. The wretched refuge of the teeming shore, send me the homeless purpose tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the people.
Found out about it about an hour ago. An hour and a half. She's like, oh, I'll do that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. All right. It's not Savage. Oh, no. I just looked at it and I'm like, that's so wrong. It's Sean. Two typos. I'm sure it's my fault. Okay, can I, are you fixing it?
For what it's worth, Ruth Tippett has 2 T's at the end too.
Oh, seriously? Yeah, you can just say it's fine. Okay, so
today I'm here to speak on what is a very uncomfortable topic, but I think it needs to be talked about, and that is genocide. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, what is a genocide? So a genocide is when a government or a society or an institution attempts to eradicate a certain group of people based on their ethnicity or race. The term genocide itself was coined after the Holocaust of World War II. To give everybody an example of the term really means. Now, genocide has been somewhat of a constant throughout history. For example, during the First World War and the Armenian genocide, the Ottoman army marched 1.5 million Armenians out into the desert where they were starved, they were shocked, they were beaten, they died of disease. And in the colonial Congo, from 1885 to 1908, the population declined from 20 million to 8 million. The population was cut in half in just over 2 decades of colonial rule. However, I don't want to give the impression that genocide is a thing of the past. It's not. In 1994, in the African country of Rwanda, the larger Hutu tribe committed a genocide against the smaller Tutsi tribe. They ended up killing 900,000 people. In 2003, in the region of Darfur in Sudan, the Sudanese army rampaged through the region, killing everyone. That was only 20 years ago. So let's do an experiment. So before I started speaking, who here had heard of the Armenian genocide? Raise your hand. Few. Who here had heard of the colonial Congo? Again, a few. Who here had heard of the Rwandan or Darfur genocides? Again, a few. Only a handful, though. And that's the point I want to make. You see how few people really raise their hands? It was only a few, only a handful. That's exactly my point. You see, when society is faced with something that's uncomfortable or it's hard to talk about, we don't talk about it and we don't face it. We just swish it under the rug, we don't talk about it, and it remains forgotten. However, with genocide, this is a big, big problem because if we forget about these things, more and more of them happen. We are enabling more genocide to occur. We are enabling the suffering of millions of people in the future. So the point I want to get across is that each and every one of you in this room can prevent genocide by just simply remembering and learning. Because I believe when it comes to genocide, we can never forget and never repeat.
Hey, Miss Jazzy.
All men are created equal, except if you're crazy. For so long, people who have had mental health differences and illnesses have been treated less than and inhuman. Today, kids are put into psychiatric hospitals where they're treated like insane prisoners. There are advertisements that tell people that these mental rehab facilities help and are progressive at helping people. Some are, but most are not. The average stay of the facility is 3 weeks. Most places will not even consider letting you leave until you have an evaluation after 2 weeks. While people are in there, we are treated with little respect. Not wearing our own clothes, no shoes, no more than 10 shower minutes with a shower door that barely covers enough to be leaking. You have to stay in bed at bedtime or an alarm will sound. It's very loud. Not that it matters because security comes in every 30 minutes to shine a light on you to make sure you're alive. So sleep was limited. If you leave something in your room, you can't get it until a nurse walks you there and unlocks the door for you. People who get too crazy are booby juiced, also known as sedated, and then put into a locked square room with padded walls. It sounds like a movie. I had to live that. I had to see nurses dragging a 12-year-old girl away who was screaming at the top of her lungs as they punished her with the room because she would not give them a quarter that she found. Does this sound familiar to you? If your child was sick and suicidal, would you want them to live in these conditions? The Constitution gives us unalienable rights as human beings. There needs to be reform to these facilities on a government level, reforming how the facilities can run and how people can be reasonably treated to have actual success in helping them. Right now, facilities are being used as temporary holding cells to keep people from killing themselves for just a little while longer, rather than actually helping in the long run. People don't bring these subjects up because who cared if it was a little bad? At least the crazies are contained, but they were people too.
Thank you for sharing
Lily, Lily, Lily.
After winning freedom from King George, the American people sought to ensure their rights from future tyranny by amending the Constitution to establish the Bill of Rights. Most notably, they set out to protect freedom of religion, speech, assembly, and to keep and bear arms. These rights are fundamental to our government and define American society. However, each of these rights is subject to reasonable restrictions. For example, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater despite your freedom of speech. You can't practice polygamy despite the right to free exercise of religion. And you can't trespass despite your right to free assembly. The right to bear arms should be no different than these other fundamental rights and therefore also subject to restrictions. You will hear from gun rights advocates that there should be absolutely no restrictions. They want their right to own weapons to be beyond debate. They believe the Second Amendment to be absolute. They put their right to own arms above reasonable restriction and beyond reasonable compromise. But this absolutism is its own form of tyranny, the same oppression and arrogance that our founding fathers sought to abolish. The Declaration of Independence states that we all have unalienable rights in the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. How many lives must be lost? How many of our liberties must be sacrificed? And how many families have to suffer so a Second Amendment fundamentalist doesn't have to compromise their right to guns? Every person in this room has been impacted in some way by the results of gun violence, and we know the pain doesn't stop with the shooting. It causes further impacts on survivors and their communities. Each of the 40,000 people who die every year by gun violence cause ripples of suffering that spread across America. Our freedom to worship in peace has been shattered by mass shootings in synagogues, churches, and mosques. Our freedom to learn in peace has been fractured by the sound of gunfire in schools all across the country. Columbine, Oakland, Sandy Hook, Parkland, Uvalde, and over 2,051 more schools since 1970 to be exact. Our freedom to assemble in peace has been disrupted by mass shootings at even the most common places, such as grocery stores, concerts, parks, and neighborhood gatherings. We must resist this loss of life, liberty, and happiness. We must fight this tyranny. We must restore and rebalance the right to bear arms with our other fundamental rights in America. Reasonable restrictions could include requiring a license for a gun or universal background checks to make sure people are stable and responsible enough to own a gun. 31 states still currently allow open carry with no form of permit, and 13 states don't require any background checks. Maybe the reform could look like limiting high-capacity machine guns and assault rifles, or creating a maximum clip size, which could lower death rates in public places due to gun violence. Today's guns have such large magazines and can fire so rapidly that its user can mutilate and kill dozens of people in only a couple of seconds. Maybe we could simply make guns more difficult to use, so the children who die every day from the misuse of guns and easily accessible firearms could be with us tomorrow. Today's guns are so simple to operate that even children can fire them without any training whatsoever. Our founding fathers did not kneel to the tyranny of King George. Likewise, we should not be forced to bend the knee to special interest groups that think their right to arms should be unrestricted. Their fetish for firearms jeopardizes our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Why are we a country that values guns over children? assault rifles over human beings, and gun rights over common sense. Thoughts and prayers are not close to enough. We need gun reform, and we need it now.
There we go. Mia Cirillo, an 11-year-old student at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, says she was watching Lilo and Stitch with her classmates when her classroom was invaded by a school shooter who shot and killed teachers and peers. The shooter left, but fearing he would return, Mia had to cover herself in the blood of her friend and play dead. Unfortunately, tragedies like this are not a rare occurrence in the United States. According to Gun Violence Archive, already more than 38,000 people in 2022 have died from gun violence, and close to 34,000 have been injured. What our country needs is stricter gun policies. The U.S., despite only making up 5% of the world's population, holds 46% of civilian-owned guns, according to a report by the Small Arms Survey, ranking us #1 in firearms per capita. Additionally, we have the highest rates of homicide by firearm out of the world's most developed countries. These numbers are grievous not only because of the thousands of lives lost every year, but also because of how many people are traumatized by events like this. Families everywhere are suffering from the losses of loved ones that could have been prevented. Living in the UK, gun control is a controversial topic. Hunting is a large part of the culture here. It can also be hard to sympathize with this issue since we rarely, if ever, witness instances of gun violence towards others in our small community. But just because we haven't personally witnessed tragedies like this does not mean the issue doesn't exist. It simply means that we are privileged enough to live in a community that is safe, to live in a community where most of us aren't afraid to go to school every day. Stricter gun safety laws would not and should not eliminate guns for recreational use. We all can agree that the number of deaths from gun violence in our country is devastating, so why not do something about it? We should be working towards a world that is safer for everyone, while still allowing for the lawful and secure ownership of firearms. We can look at Japan as an example of excellent gun safety policy. Japan has a population of over 125 million people, and yet they still suffer, on average, less than 100 deaths from gun violence annually. Their policies include a rigorous background check, formal instruction, written mental and drug tests, and so much more. Despite a history of alarmingly high rates of gun violence, our government has yet to make any meaningful reforms to our nation's safety. That needs to change now. How many more students, brothers, sisters, teachers, parents, and friends have to die before we wake up and decide it's time to act? I want a safer America. We deserve a safer America.
I love that.
Okay, I'm not touching. There we go. Oh, I didn't do that. Okay, so hey, we give a big round because. Because most of you guys have been up here and getting after your truth, but look at the people. So thank you so much for doing that. Okay, couple things. We're gonna wait for the votes to be tallied, sort of thing. But hey, really quickly, how many of you guys stand up if y'all agreed with something you heard today? If you agreed with something you heard today.
What about rehab?
Stand up if you heard something that you disagreed with. Oh, come on. It's all good. It's okay. You can do it. Okay. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Have a seat. Beautiful. You guys, did you see that? That there was one, yeah, but it's so respectful. Like so respectful. And that's how we need to do this, right? We absolutely need to do this. And it's so very important. Okay, they're going, they're rattling. Are we close? Maybe perhaps?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to just kind of throw these out there. Hey, next steps, you guys know where a few of these speakers are gonna go to next? Kaufman, do you guys know what other schools are gonna be there with us? Houghton and Negaunee, middle schoolers, they're middle school, right? And then I'm telling you, they bring it. And then one person is gonna go to what? Does anybody know what that big one is? DC! Yeah, so they will go on to all expense paid, going to DC to speak their truth. They'll meet with their representatives. They will literally get on their soapbox. The last time somebody went with a COVID messes, right?
But how cool, like
Literally
you give a speech on a topic and you get to go chat up people on Capitol Hill on your issue.
And then stand on
Dang.
your soapbox right around Lincoln Memorial. Do it. So,
And maybe perhaps bring your favorite teachers with you.
perhaps you need a guardian or not a guardian, just a chaperone.
It's your choice, but I'm just saying.
All right. Again, thank you.
Oh, oh!
Okay, I hit it earlier. Yeah, all right. All right, hey, wait a minute. I need to know, sophomores, where are you? Stand up. Sophomores, stand up. Sophomores. Okay, 15 is, what? Is there anybody 14? I don't even know if they're 14, little 14 to 16-year-olds doing this, right? Doing this. All right, have a seat. Seniors, where you at? Come on. Let's look at you. Speaking your truth. All right, have a seat. Juniors, are there juniors in the house? Are there any juniors? Yeah, there you go. Real close to getting up here, right? Very good. Okay. All right. You guys ready? Got top four. Everybody was outstanding. The top four advancing to Kaufman in no particular order. Anna Melka. Anna, thank Anna Rayford. Jazzy. Lily Dixon. Thank you everyone for outstanding speeches. This is, again, like we've said before, one of our favorite days to be a teacher. So if you could stick around, speakers, we can do a quick little picture, and then you need to sign the soapbox. Everybody needs to sign the soapbox. And we say thank you to the judges because they had a really I don't know.